I'm 78 now. For 37 years, I taught clinical psychology and human development at the University of Chicago, ran a private practice specializing in midlife and late life transitions, and sat across from thousands of people trying to make sense of the lives they had built, or the ones they had let slip away. What I'm about to share with you is not theory pulled from textbooks. It is distilled from 40 years of listening, from watching patients unravel patterns they never saw coming, and from looking back at my own life with the brutal clarity only age can bring. I wish someone had sat me down at 45, looked me in the eye and said these things plainly. I would have fought them at first. Then I would have listened. Then I would have changed sooner. These are not dramatic sins. They are quiet, everyday choices. Small defaults that compound over decades until one morning you wake up and realize the life you meant to live is 20 years behind you. Here are the 10 I see most often, the 10 I made myself, ranked from the ones that hurt slowly to the ones that cut deepest. At least 3 will sting. Let them. That sting is information. 1. Treating your body like it will forgive endless neglect. Your body does not negotiate. It records. Every skipped recovery day, every year of poor sleep, every decade of sitting 8 hours without moving, every meal replaced with processed convenience. It all gets tallied. Not in monthly statements, but in silent depreciation. Arteries narrowing, discs thinning, muscle fibers disappearing, mitochondria slowing. I smoked from 19 to 43, not because I loved it by the end, but because stopping felt like admitting defeat. At 56, my cardiologist showed me angiogram images that looked like corroded plumbing. I had a colleague, Martin Heller, who ran half marathons into his late 40s and believed cardio made him invincible. At 53, his spine collapsed from 25 years of zero core strength training and zero mobility work. He couldn't bend to tie his shoes for 8 months. The body keeps score quietly until it hands you the final bill. The antidote is boring consistency. Move every day, even 10 minutes of deliberate mobility. Prioritize protein and sleep. Stop poisoning yourself with excess alcohol and ultra-processed food. Start now. The body forgives more than we think if you stop borrowing against it. 2. Choosing comfort over courage in your closest relationships. Silence is expensive. My younger brother Daniel and I lost 12 years to a misunderstanding so trivial, I'm ashamed to recount it. He sold our mother's lake house without consulting me. I felt betrayed. Instead of saying, "Daniel, that hurt because I wanted to be part of the decision," I withdrew. No calls, no holidays. His children grew up calling me Uncle Vic like a distant relative. I told myself I was protecting my dignity. I was protecting my cowardice. We reconciled when he was diagnosed with early Parkinson's, and his wife called me from the neurologist's office. 12 years of absence repaired in one long, tearful conversation on his porch. 40 minutes of honesty could have saved a decade of emptiness. Comfort feels safe. It is the most expensive luxury you'll ever buy. 3. Comparing your life to people running entirely different races. In my 40s, I lived next to a man named Harold Voss who bought a vintage sailboat he barely used. Every weekend he polished it in the driveway. Every weekend I stood at my window feeling smaller because I couldn't afford one. I didn't sail. I got seasick on ferries. Yet I internalized his boat as evidence I was losing some invisible competition. We do this constantly. Salaries, houses, vacations, children's achievements, social media highlight reels. We compare our unedited draft to someone else's polished chapter 20. There is no scoreboard. There is only the life you are actually living. Stop auditing other people's wins. Start auditing your own values. 4. postponing the things that would make your soul sing until life calms down. Life never calms down. It changes costume. I promised myself for 22 years that I would learn classical guitar. My mother played beautifully. I used to sit beside her on the piano bench as a boy and dream of making music like hers. Every year I said, next year when the kids are older, when the practice is stable, when I retire. At 69 I finally bought a guitar. I'm still terrible. My fingers ache. My timing is hopeless. But every Thursday evening I play for 30 minutes and feel closer to the boy who dreamed of it. The perfect moment is a myth. The only moment is now. 5. Clinging to an expired version of who you used to be. I was a nationally ranked fencer in college, second in the Midwest, 1970. For decades I carried that like a medal I could flash whenever I felt diminished. In my 50s I still told the story at dinner parties. My daughter finally said gently, "Dad, that was half a lifetime ago. Who are you now?" She wasn't cruel. She was accurate. Past glory is a lovely memory. As an identity, it becomes a prison. Let the old self retire with dignity. Make room for the person you can still become. 6. Building your inner circle around people who vanish when life gets real. For 15 years I played poker every other Friday with the same 4 men. Laughter, bourbon, bad bluffing. When my first marriage collapsed in 1998 and I lost the house, not one called. Not to check in. Not to offer a couch. Nothing. The following Friday the cards were dealt as usual. When I finally said something, one shrugged. "We figured you wanted space." They wanted space from discomfort. Fair weather friends are not evil. They are simply unequipped for storms. Build your circle with people who show up in rain, not just sunshine. Quality over quantity. Depth over convenience. 7. Allowing resentment to become your default lens. After my practice partner embezzled our retirement fund in 2004 and disappeared to Costa Rica, I carried that anger like a second skin. I retold the story at every gathering, every haircut, every dentist appointment. My second wife finally said, "Victor, you're giving him free lodging in your mind and he's not even paying rent." She was right. Resentment punishes the bearer far more than the offender. You don't have to forgive. You do have to evict. Write the letter you'll never send. Burn it. Let the space fill with something lighter. 8. Treating every disagreement like a war you must win. I fought with my son for 18 months over his decision to become a documentary filmmaker. Instead of going to law school, I made charts. I quoted salary data. I lectured. He listened, nodded, and quietly enrolled in film school. Today he's 39, has 2 award-winning shorts, teaches at a university, and wakes up excited. I spent a year and a half straining our bond over a future that was never mine to dictate. Not every hill is worth dying on. Most aren't worth climbing. Choose connection over being right. 9. Mistaking busyness for meaning. I wore exhaustion like a badge for 3 decades. 80-hour weeks, weekend consultations, never saying no. I told myself I was indispensable. In truth, I was avoiding stillness. When I finally slowed down at 67 after a mild heart event, I discovered half my urgent work had been motion disguised as progress. Busyness is easy. Meaning is hard. It requires choosing what matters and letting the rest fall away. The most productive years of my life were the ones where I did less, but did it deliberately. 10. Waiting for some future chapter to begin feeling grateful for the one you're in. This was my longest blindness. In my 30s, I waited for my 40s to have it together. In my 40s, I waited for the kids to leave home. In my 50s, I waited for retirement. Retirement arrived, and I sat in an empty house on a Tuesday morning, Coffee cold, wondering why I felt so hollow. I had spent decades chasing arrival instead of inhabiting presence. Every season has beauty if you stop scanning the horizon long enough to see it. The quiet of a house at dawn, the smell of coffee you made yourself, the voice of someone you love on the phone, a walk with no destination. These are not minor. They are the actual texture of a life. I'm not here to tell you I've mastered any of this. At 78, I still catch myself slipping into old patterns. The difference is awareness. I see the mistake while I'm making it, and sometimes I stop. Pick one thing, one of these 10 that made your chest tighten. Do one small corrective action this week. A phone call, a walk, a moment of stillness, one adjustment. That's how real change arrives. Not in fireworks, but in quiet corrections. Thank you for listening to an old psychologist who still believes it's never too late to course correct. If any of this landed, drop a comment. Which number hit hardest, and what small step will you take? I read everyone.